Guess who's back, 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 back again. I'm bringing sexy back, back again. Guess who's back, 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 back again. I'm bringing sexy back. Tell a friend. You're such a fucking hoe, I love it. You're such a fucking hoe, I love it. You're such a fucking hoe.
Hello? Hello, is this thing on? Did you miss me? I'm back, and in glorious fashion, I have some games to talk about. There were no good games. In the last 10 years, there were no good games, but finally, I have some games to talk about. Okay, now, last time, the games I talked about, Just Cause 2, I did own that game. But the other two, I didn't actually have them. This time around, however, I actually don't have any of them either. Because I already sold Final Fantasy VII Remake on eBay. I downloaded Satisfactory, so really that's not... I guess that counts. Anyway, so let's get into it. First game, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, this game, I wasn't hyped for initially because I saw the initial gameplay and the combat system kind of turned me off. I wasn't super interested in the new way they were doing things because, in the old one, because of the graphical limitations of the PS1, a lot of RPGs flourished because that type of gameplay is possible with the limited technology. However, now they're able to do more action-oriented gameplay by mixing in the turn-based, some of the elements from the old turn-based system in with a new action-oriented where you're actually fighting and doing different combos as your ATB gauge is building so that you can, unleash, you can use items or you can unleash a more powerful attack. And I played the demo, actually. I bought the game the day after I played the demo. I played the demo and I was like, I'm sold. I waited to play the demo until the game had come out because I didn't want to wait. I wanted to jump right into the experience after playing the demo. I'm glad I did. However, you do have to play that section again. If you play the demo, the same section is in the beginning of the remake, like the taking out the Mako reactor, just like at the beginning of the original game. But they change up little things here or there, so they don't want you to just take your save file from the demo and just transfer it right over. That wouldn't really be... they feel like you wouldn't get the full experience of what they've tweaked since the demo was created. And it might be technologically not straightforward, maybe. Anyway, that game is pretty good. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I kind of like it, and I'm waiting for the next installments. This installment, as a lot of people know, is only a section of the game, not even the entire first disc. To my recollection, the first disc of the original was the one with the most content. The third and the second, it didn't feel like as long. And so, in order for them to take everything from the first disc and put it in this installment, you would leave the initial stages of like the linear section, and then you'd start to do more of the open world stuff once you get out of the city. I'm kind of glad that they fleshed out that part. I think it was definitely slow in sections, and I really want to get to the things I loved and the criticisms I have for this game because there is a lot on both sides. But I will just say that this game is not what I expected, and they definitely took some liberties with the source material. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will say that some things are shot for shot, and other things not so much. Um, and I think that's good because at first I was like, when I see a book and I read the book and then I want to watch the movie, I want it to be shot for shot. And then when I see the movie and it's shot for shot, I was like, that's boring. I already know what's going to happen. And I think that's this game is partially for the people who have played the original, and they feel like it makes more sense if they get a new experience while still being able to relive the nostalgia they had for the original. I really liked their utilization of the set pieces and reimagining these set pieces. It's absolutely fantastic. I mean, when you go through the church after being at the Mako reactor the second time and trying to blow up that one, and then you fall through and you slam into the slums, and then you find Aerith and Aerith songs plays. Yeah, that portion, especially when you get out of the church, is unreal. How it looks so good. But then that's the pro. They had to do something bad in the fact that the textures, I feel like it might be difficult to get around this in certain situations. But these textures, for if you were to look up, you see Midgar and you see the plates above you in the slums. Or you see the slums below you if you're up on the plates. And it's such a massive structure that they either couldn't render it or they felt like it didn't make sense to render it because it would put too much strain on the system for a background. So the textures look really low resolution, and at times they could have made them full polygon backgrounds, but it takes you out of the immersion, and you're like, what? So the textures are bad, but yet the set pieces, the way they've created them, are fantastic. Now, the next thing, voice acting. So I felt like the voice actors were really good in this game, that they embodied the characters sort of not exactly in the way you would imagine them when you're playing the silent protagonist in the first one, and how nobody has voice actors in the first one. You kind of create like a personality in your head somewhat, and I think they nailed that. They even Aerith was a little bit more spunky and upbeat, and that I just didn't really think about, but it makes sense with her character. Almost like in the face of evil, she's always like really happy. I don't know, somehow it works. But yet, the dialogue, especially for the NPCs and the non-main characters, the side characters, just random people, it's not very good. It's just reminds me of some Shenmue. It's like Shenmue 3, or Shenmue 2, all those where it's just no one would ever say this in real life. But again, it's you can overlook it because there's so much other great stuff in the game. Another thing, the level design. I found, now this is the linear section of the game, and overall the whole game felt very linear. But the level design especially, at some points I go, why do you need this? You have, there's a sewer section, and you just go through the sewers. You just walk through the sewers, and you're unlocking stuff, and it's okay, now I gotta backtrack. Okay, I found this stupid key that lets me get in this room, and it's just tedious. It's just adding length to the game without being fun. There are some fun aspects and mechanics, but overall, the game's length. I was looking at maybe 100%ing it, but I ended up doing, beating the game and doing maybe a little over half of the side quests, which I'll get to those side quests. And it took me about 24 hours, and I honestly think you could cut down hours of the game just by cutting out some of these crappy linear levels. So, in regards to the side quests, I think that I really like that they were in there, and they're supposed to flesh out. I'll give you the pro and con with this again. They're supposed to flesh out the world, and there are sections of the game where it lets you kind of free roam. You're in this little area, but within it, you can do what you want at the pace that you want. You can buy items. You can do some skill training in order to get different abilities, different summons, and but the side quests just seem really unimaginative. It's like, kill that guy, come back to me. Okay, now go over there. Yeah, see what's up over there. All right, you killed that guy. All right, now you get some points. And especially towards the end, they give you a lot in one of the chapters towards the end, and I was like, I don't need all this. I'm just gonna skip this. I wish I could play all the side quests, but I just don't feel like it. So the next thing I want to talk about is like, I'll get to the ending, but let's talk about the combat a little bit more. The combat is, I honestly, there's a classic mode, then there's, I believe, a normal and a hard mode. I played on hard the whole time. Didn't have too much of a problem. There was one battle that I had a lot of trouble with. To give you a hint, there's a movie called, it's a Halloween movie. I believe it's by DreamWorks, maybe. And you fight this thing, right? It's a real bitch, but it's all right. You get through it, and that's the only part I died a lot. It had good mechanics. A lot of the bosses have good mechanics, and I felt like overall this game was like a big boss run. It had so many bosses. Like, you got a mini boss, and then you got mini boss 2, and you got big boss, and you got another big boss, and that's like one level. And you do that a bunch of times. It was fun because this game flourishes, the combat flourishes when you're able to have a lot of time attacking an enemy, because you're building up your stagger gauge, and you're building up the ability to summon, and then your ATB gauge for multiple different party members. If you get them 2 bars filled as opposed to just 1, you can do additional things, and you're using items, and it's all flowing. You're jumping from one character party member to the other, and that's when the game shines. There are some bosses that restrict you to doing certain things. You have to change up your tactics. That was all great. And so, like I said, this game has a lot to like about it. The ending. Personally, I would agree with what others have said in regards to it being sort of frustrating that it kind of deviates from what you expect. And I mean, we're talking about the ending of a 24 to 40 hour game. It can't just be leaving the city of Midgar. It has to be something, extra. And they could have done that without making it so melodramatic. Overall, I don't dislike it. I feel like maybe things like the ending will continue to happen throughout the rest of the other installments. But to a degree, I would say that it has a purpose, and it's a little jarring, but I'm rolling with the punches. I want to see what the other ones are like. I was open-minded about this game, and I'm glad I was, because I enjoyed it. So that's Final Fantasy VII Remake. Game Scoop approved.